بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين، وبعد. قال الشيخ علاء الدين المرداوي الحنبلي تغمده الله برحمته وأسكنه فسيح جنته ونفعنا به وبعلومه وعلوم مشايخنا في الدارين آمين. قال ابن العراقي: زاد بعضهم بنفسه ليخرج ما امتنع فيهم ذلك بالقرائن أو موافقة دليل عقلي أو غير ذلك، ولا يحتاج لذلك، لأن المفيد للقطع هو مع القرائن. This is a different perspective now, that if المتواتر benefits you certainty, it benefits you certainty with factors, with external factors. We cannot, this is the perspective, we cannot claim that it benefits you certainty without external factors. Hence this addition, or this part in the definition that is supposed to exclude something, in order to fulfill what we require in this style of definitions, that it defines something co-exclusively and co-extensively. So in order to define it co-exclusively, it was supposed to exclude something that in which you benefit certainty through external factors. So we have here a point of view that you benefit certainty anyway from al-mutawatir, and there are always external factors. And he says: وكذا قاله البرماوي والتاج السبكي وغيره. I do not think that this is a very important detail. I do not even think that, and the Sheikh himself and other Mashaykh, they do not really discuss this, and they just leave these things there. On a side note, all the books of Usul al-Fiqh that were written by the scholars of the late phase, I think they can, I can't say easily, but they can be rewritten. And I'm not like these crazy people who want the books of Usul al-Fiqh to be written according to the Aqidah of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, and they mean themselves al-Wahhabiyya. Crazy people. I mean they can be rewritten in a way that represents the Hanbali philosophy more, represents it more. But it's a very difficult job. I do not think it's an easy task. I think I even prefer al-Mardawi to Ibn al-Najjar when it comes to this perspective. Who represents the Hanbali philosophy more, al-Mardawi or Ibn al-Najjar? I think al-Mardawi. It's not really an important issue, the one that we've just discussed. They do not even comment on it. When he says ليخرج ما امتنع فيهم ذلك, يعني ليخرج من امتنع الكذب فيهم, فذلك refers back to al-kadhib, or lying, or saying anything but the truth, that it's impossible, عادة, traditionally impossible as we call it sometimes. But the claim here is that there are always factors that help you reach this result. ثم قال, then he said: وكون خبر التواتر يفيد العلم هو قول أئمة المسلمين. وكون خبر التواتر يفيد العلم هو قول أئمة المسلمين وغيرهم، وخالف في ذلك من لا يعبأ به على ما يأتي. The fact that a report in which التواتر happens benefits certainty, and certainty is called al-ilm here, and this is the position of the ai of al-Muslimin and other people, يعني even non-Muslims sometimes, yeah, يعني when they write books now on the philosophy of testimony and they mention something like this, sometimes they mention these things, but in a like we would say in Arabic بحلة جديدة, يعني these things are mentioned now but they are wearing new clothes, or this is like a literal translation of the expression. I think sometimes they do not even notice that these things have existed among non-Muslims for a very long time now, yeah. Anyway, خالف في ذلك من لا يعبأ به, those who disagreed يعني are not considered, are not counted, are not respected as individuals whose opinions are taken into consideration or anything like this. This will be mentioned later. The editor says on page 1763 inshallah when we reach this part. قال البرماوي التواتر خبر جمع يمتنع تواطؤهم على الكذب عن محسوس أو عن خبر مثلهم إلى أن ينتهي إلى محسوس أي معلوم بأصل الحواس الخمس كمشاهدة أو سماع، فخرج بالقيد الأول خبر الواحد ولو كان مستفيضا. Now this is a very detailed way of explaining these aspects of التواتر, because it says that التواتر is the report of a group يمتنع تواطؤهم على الكذب, whose agreement on a lie is impossible. But he says يمتنع تواطؤهم على الكذب, and he does not tell you what makes it impossible. And when I say what makes it impossible, I do not mean the tool that makes it impossible. I mean, because it's one tool in all cases, which is the intellect. But I mean what makes it impossible. Is it the laws, the rules of the intellect, or the laws or rules of tradition, al-'ada, and they are only realized, conceptualized by the intellect, because it's the tool, the only tool you possess to realize, conceptualize these things. He didn't say. He said it's just impossible. Yes. عن محسوس أو عن خبر أو عن خبر جمع مثلهم إلى أن ينتهي إلى محسوس. This part says that they, says this group of people whose report is seen as it's impossible to see this report as a lie. This report is impossible to be seen as a lie, and they report something that they witnessed, something that they sensed, something they saw, heard, felt, or anything like this. Or the report of, or they report that some other people reported, they heard other people who reported something that they heard from other people, and the other, and we can go on like this until we reach at the end of the day the report of people who sensed something, saw something, heard something from a source. And this is the important thing. From a source could be one person in this case. Just let me remind you that, yeah, we studied Tawatur, and it's a book of Usul al-Fiqh. and we probably care for our study of al-hadith, al-Quran, and al-ijma' and all the evidence, because the tawatur is possible in all these things, as we will mention shortly, inshallah. However, you are just studying the concept, and it can be applied to anything. Can be applied to anything. To the report that that man landed on the moon. It can be used in anything. Be flexible and do not just think about the consequences of what is being discussed in التواتر, because let's discuss it from a theoretical point of view without being restricted, and then when we reach certain results, then we can tell whether they are applicable or not to some aspects of what we study in these disciplines, Shari'i disciplines or so. Yes? If you think about it, this discipline, that usul al-fiqh and other disciplines, they are theorists or theoreticians. You have to understand this. And he explains that mahsus, sensed, means ma'lum, learned. I think ma'lum here means learned or received or acquired. Yes, بأصل الحواس الخمس, by one of the 5 senses. كمشاهدة أو سماع, like seeing or hearing. فخرج بالقيد الأول خبر الواحد ولو كان مستفيضا. So we see these parts of this relatively longer definitions. As خلاص, now I think you've gotten used to it. So every part in the definition has a purpose, to define this thing co-exclusively and co-extensively. So you'll always have to say, yeah, so this restriction in the definition, it excludes so and so and so, and the other one, it includes so and so, or it extends the definition to include so and so, co-exclusively, co-extensively, as we explained. So he says that the first restriction, or the first qaid, the first condition in the definition, that it is a report of a group. Yes, so this is the first one. It excludes the report of the one. خبر الواحد here is called the one, خبر الواحد, the report of the one, خبر الواحد, ولو كان مستفيضا, even if it reaches the level of الاستفاضة. And according to the definition of المستفيض, it's either المشهور, and this is the dominant definition, or let's not call it dominant, the most common definition, or the more common definition, or it is something lower than al-mutawatir, higher than al-mashhur. So we are not talking about one person, we are talking about individuals, ahad. However, they do not reach the level of التواتر, or they are ahad and they just, we mean mashhur, they are just above al-aziz. So it's not 2, it's not 3, it's either 4, 5, 6, something like this, or it's even much more than that, but it does not reach the level of التواتر. Yes, I think he meant here ولو كان مستفيدا ولو كان مشهورا, not the other definition of المستفيد, which is something between المشهور والمتواتر, because you understand that this thing is in the middle between المشهور والمتواتر when it does not benefit you certainty. And here we are just supposed to let me change something that I said. I think he says the first restriction is that it is a report of a group of people whose report is cannot be a lie. It's impossible that it is a lie. I think all of this is the first. Restriction or the first condition in the definition. All of it, like this. All of it. Hence, all meanings are intended. I think this should be the way we understand it. We can break it. We can break this first restriction or this first condition into smaller restrictions or conditions. However, and this is what I was doing actually, because this is the traditional way of breaking the traditional way of analyzing the definitions. However, I think the Shaykh or the Al-Barmawi here meant it differently. Explained it differently. For the first restriction is this big part in which he says it is the report of a group who cannot be lying in their report, or whose lie is an impossibility or so. This is what he actually meant. Hence, it excludes the report of the one. The one here means not like a group of people. It definitely excludes the one like one person. This is interesting. We were trying to revisit this, but the time has not the proper time has not come yet, and it excludes the two, and also another group of people whose report can be a lie. It is a possibility that they lie, because after evaluating the situation, we see that they can be lying. It is possible. It's not an impossibility. So this excludes al-mustafid or al-mashhur. Al-mustafid according to the definition of people who differentiate between al-mustafid wal mashhur, like some of the Hanafiya. So mustafid is something like much bigger than mashhur, or more than mashhur, the number of narrators more than what is typically mashhur. So it's less than التواتر, it's stronger than al-mashhur, weaker than التواتر, but it's called mustafid. Or the mashhur according to the very common meaning of al-mashhur, the narration of 4 people, 4 or more, or even 3 or more. Yes, all these are excluded, all these are not intended. He says وخرج بالانتهاء إلى محسوس ما كان عن معقول أي معلوم بدليل عقلي. So when he says that they end or they report something that they sensed or that they accessed يعني via one of their senses, we excluded something that has been realized or conceptualized via the intellect. And by the intellect we mean the evidence, the logical evidence, يعني the evidence of the intellect, not the. What do we mean by the evidence of the intellect? The logical piece of evidence. يعني something that is considered so because it's logically so, like the impossibility of combining النقيضين أو combining النقيضين. Yes. الجمع بين النقيضين يعني. يعني contradictory things cannot be combined, cannot be seen, cannot be confirmed at the same time in the same thing. طيب, and he gives an example كإخبار أهل السنة دهريا بحدوث العالم فإنه لا يوجب له علما لتجويزه غلطهم في الاعتقاد بل هو معتقد ذلك. Imagine if Ahl Sunnah reported to a person who believes that al-alam is qadim, that the universe is qadim, that the world is qadim. Imagine if they told him that it's actually hadith, it's not qadim. This does not oblige him, or does not force him to have certainty on the subject, because he allows the possibility, a possibility in his head, يعني. He allows the possibility that they are mistaken in their aqidah. Yes. Actually, he believes in this possibility. His faith is his faith is that this possibility is actually what's happening, that they are mistaken in their aqidah, and they are telling him it's hadith, it's not qadim, not based on witnessing how things were created. يعني at the beginning of times, they are telling him it's qadim because they think, they are telling him it's hadith because they think it's hadith, and he believes that they are just mistaken. He believes that they are just mistaken. Then he says, وأيضا فعلم المخبرين به نظري والتواتر يفيد العلم الضروري فيصير الفرع أقوى من الأصل. This could be a little bit problematic because now we are having this conversation again that the certainty that you benefit from التواتر, the certainty that you benefit from التواتر is something that happens ضرورة, so it's necessarily so. It's necessarily so. You cannot really say that it is after some process of another looking into evidence or seeking the evidence. You find yourself forced to believe in it. So this is not after looking into evidence, is what they are saying. There's a difference between الضروري والنظري. Another requires nazar, ijtihad, looking into evidence, going through this process. Your intellect goes through the process, you think, and then you reach a conclusion. Nadari. Daruri, you find your nafs, your soul, your intellect believing in something, forced to believe in it. This is how powerful or how strong the evidence is, that it forces you to believe in something, and then we call it necessarily known. Yani you are يعني you cannot really help it. You have to be aware. It's like knowing or understanding or believing that one is the half of two. Is this the ilm, or this the certainty that we benefit from al-mutawatir or التواتر? Anyway, this can be a discussion that we discuss later. Here he says, when you tell someone that al-alam qadim, this is a conclusion that you reached through another. So the certainty that is benefited here is nazari, and the tawatur is supposed to benefit certainty, but darura, not nazar. We can call it like necessary certainty. Yes. What's interesting here is that he says فيصير الفرع أقوى من الأصل. I find it entertaining, but it's not really important. If we think about it as فرع and أصل, فرع like a branch of something. الأصل is the source of this branch. In this analogy, the reporters are considered what? The source. The person to whom, or the people to whom they reported, are considered what? The branch. In what يعني in which world you have that the knowledge constituted in the intellect of the branch is stronger than the knowledge that is constituted in the intellect of, or in the intellect of the source. The assumption here is, if you consider something like a group of reporters telling a man that العالم is قديم, العالم is حادث, or العالم is قديم, يعني whatever is being reported, and it's just not a logical, but something that they reached via another intellectual another. Yes, so it's not something that they sensed. This is the point. It's not something that they experienced by one of their senses. When you do something like this and you want to call it متواتر, they have يعني something that has already been determined, that المتواتر is benefiting you certainty which is necessary, ضرورة. How come the source constitutes its certainty, knowledge, via another, and we claim that it's mutawatir, or this is some sort of tawatur, which is supposed to benefit the branch knowledge, which is necessary, not nadari, daruri, not nadari, higher in its nature. How come the knowledge of the branch is stronger than the knowledge, or the certainty of the branch stronger than the certainty of the source? يعني I believe this discussion could be even omitted, but they mentioned it. Let's exercise our minds, and it's fine. One word could change the whole discussion. Who said that it has to be ضروري, or let's allow that المتواتر has two types, نظري and ضروري. يعني this is not the evidence that المتواتر is cannot include something like أدلة العقول, or الأدلة العقلية, or what has been reached via العقل. This is not the proper way of discussing this, in my opinion. Yes, but I will stick to something that we always say, لأن العقل يخطئ. I do not want someone's interpretation. I want someone's testimony, not interpretation. This is it. Next time we will read from وأيضا مثل ذلك إذا لم يتفق المخبرون على واحد بالنص. والله تعالى أعلى وأعلم، وصلي اللهم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم، والحمد لله رب العالمين.